Hi, Abhishek.
Hi.
You and me have had this conversation. We've been having this conversation that we are going to get together, add some value to our connections, talk about a topic that resonates both with your connections and mine. So, for everyone listening in, my name is Trisha Hazarika. I am a sales coach based here in Dubai. And today, I am very excited to introduce you to Abhishek. Abhishek has 2 decades of professional experience working with leadership teams, entrepreneurs, specifically at the identity level. Obviously, he's going to cover a little bit more about his expertise while we speak about a topic which is very, very close to both Abhishek and me. Why are we doing this meeting? To add value, and hopefully someone listening right now recognizes themselves in one of the conversations that we're going to talk about. Abhishek, I would like you to do a little introduction, please, before we dive right into the topic.
Sure. Thanks, Trisha, first of all, for inviting me. I think we've had so many conversations, and there's always so much to learn when we get into these discussions. You're right. We wanted to, and we've been talking about this for some time, and we wanted to kind of come together and have a discussion around this. It's a topic that is close to what you do. It's close to what I do, and I think is something that a lot of people kind of may misplace, but then they do feel. And that's what we call burnout. And I think in today's world, and we are probably examples of that. You in a fast-paced Dubai environment, me sitting here in an equally fast-paced Mumbai environment. I think burnout has just become a part of life, which needs addressing by all of us. I mean, it's not really, when I speak about burnout, it's not specific to corporate professionals or educational professionals. It could also be people in between jobs, looking for jobs, wanting to get back to corporate, or even homemakers, right?
Hmm.
Who are not really working an official job, but then they are working at home, managing the house. I think burnout touches them as well to a great extent. So I think it's like a universally accepted thing that it's there. The question is, how do we address so that we continue performing at the optimal? Because on the surface, everything looks great, but then underneath is where it starts eating away. So I think it's a topic that both of us find very, very interesting around, and at least I love working with people around this entire phenomena called burnout.
No, thanks, Abhishek. It's very true. I have recently done, like not recently, just 2 days back, a webinar, which is very, very close to my heart. I actually came up with the topic from scratch, and it was a result of observations. I work with a lot of salespeople, and throughout my career of 21 years in sales and leadership, I have worked closely with salespeople, and I have been a salesperson myself. I've always been selling, and until date, I sell. So one thing that I have noticed is if I have a planned day, I'm more productive. I might have 3 meetings versus I would like to have 5 meetings. But if I have the 3 meetings which were into my diary through a structure, through proper plan. Like for example, I had 10 targets, and out of that, 3 of them have been in my calendar. So, what happens when I get into my day? I'm full of confidence because I have already prepared for those meetings. Um, I am not, I've already have a strategy that I'm going to work with. So I feel more happy, more content with my day as I get into those meetings, and eventually in the meetings I perform well because I'm confident. Versus I have a last minute meeting, which is not the ideal meeting. It's not from my ICP, but I got to do it because in sales we all have KPIs, guys. We have to meet our KPIs. We have to come across as we've been doing. We've been actioning our days. So that particular topic is very close to my heart, and I actually did that webinar, which is about how a structured calendar can deliver sales. And now I'm not going to touch upon that topic at all in detail because that's for another day. What I'm going to talk about is a little takeaway from that webinar, which my audience resonated, is this particular point that if I have a structured day, I'm actually less anxious. So my first question, Abhishek, to you, to bring your expertise on the table, guys. He's with 20 years of experience, he's worked with so many leaders. He's spoken to leaders who come to him broken. And he's obviously with his expertise. I've known Abhishek. I've known his profile. We are also getting together to do many amazing things in the future. So we will. That's also another for another day. But let's use his expertise and talk about a couple of points which I'm sure a lot of us will resonate. The first question, Abhishek, to you is if someone's listening right now and recognizes themselves in this conversation, number one, we spoke about exhaustion, the reactive days, the days that you suddenly realize I don't have nothing on my calendar, and that makes you very anxious. The feeling of never catching up. Ki, I am doing my work. I am actually immersed in my laptop doing the work, but I'm not doing the real work. What is one thing that you would want them to do before the week is out so that they feel better, content, walk into the weekend without feeling moody?
It's very interesting. One of the main reasons, and I'll tell you, the crowd that you're talking about now, that I am engrossed in my work and still it's not happening. Now, these are mostly your high performers, right? Because they are doing so much, right? And the expectations are so high from them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they are the ones who are feeling the most exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that needs to be done, step one, would be, to stop being the go-to person all the time, right? People around such individuals would say, oh, okay, he'll do it. He can do it. He's always done it. Yeah, he's always done it, or she's always done it, but he or she will not do it again, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's only that much that a person can do during a day, during the week. That's where the step two of the planning comes into the picture. First, a clarity and a clear mindset on that I am not the go to person. I'm happy being not the go to person. I can still be a high performer. I can still meet and exceed my targets without having to take on additional responsibilities. That's why the calendar becomes very important, not just purely from a planning perspective, but also from a very, very deep underlying signal sending perspective, that this is my boundary,
Oh my
right?
God. Abhishek, as salespeople, we love to be the go-to person because, hey, she knows it all. If I ask her for a strategy, she'll tell me. Or if I ask her, what should I do in this case, she'll tell me. And it makes us feel good, na, that I am the go-to person. So you don't want to avoid and push away those conversations for new joiners that are coming in and stuff. But
That is exactly the reason why the calendar, that okay, once a week for an hour, I'm going to give time to people to learn from me, and that's my boundary. Beyond that 1 hour, it's me and my work. If you have a question, make a note of it. Next year, when my time comes again for that 1 hour, come back. Come back in group. I'm not going to answer the same question to 10 different people. Now, that's not me being nasty.
mm-hmm,
That's me drawing the boundary. That's me planning my calendar. Because what happens is, it's one thing about planning the calendar, and it's another thing about drawing the boundary and sticking to the calendar. Because a lot of us, some of us don't plan, some of us plan but don't follow through because I have been the go to person.
mm-hmm,
How can I say no?
mm-hmm,
So that's putting pressure on myself. And that's when the same question about the same product, how do I, say, for example, handle a particular common objection in sales, if
mm-hmm,
we talk sales? And almost everybody, let's say, in that, whoever is selling that product faces that objection, and it's a serious objection, and most sales are dropped in that objection.
true.
Now, almost everybody is coming to me and asking me the same question at different times of the day. My
True.
plan's anyways gone for a toss. I feel the urgency to answer the question.
Because you're good,
Uh,
you know it. Yeah.
yeah, and I feel bad to say no.
Yeah.
because I can't draw the boundary. I can't say, hey, you know what? This is my calendar. I planned it. I worked on this.
Mhm.
And I have kept aside time to answer such questions.
Mhm.
Right? And of course, the thing around specifically this example that I gave you that people come and ask me, the
Mm.
thing around this that if you are thinking smart, if you're truly a high performer, you're thinking smart and you don't want to get burnt out, then you should be able to be in a position to look at what are the kind of questions that are coming.
Mm.
Can I make a set of FAQs?
FAQs,
Can
yeah.
I go to my coach or my trainer and say, hey, you know what? These are the questions that are coming very often to me and it disrupts my schedule. Why don't you guys do a training on this? Why do I not do this? Because it seems I have to do everything myself. No, you don't have to do everything yourself.
Mm.
Sometimes you got to delegate and say, hey, you know what? There's a training team. I've given them the top five objections. They're doing a session. Go there.
Mm. It's
So
so
I'm not saying
difficult.
no. I'm just saying go to the right place and learn.
Yeah, it's difficult to
It's
let
as simple.
go. It's difficult,
You
Abhishek.
have to let go. You have because what happens is, and I was telling you that when I have a planned day,
Mm.
and then I have 20 people coming and asking me either different questions or the same questions or whatever it is, that is disrupting my calendar.
Mm.
Then my then I'm making the statement, oh, I have so much to do.
So true.
That is equal to stress. And when I say this repeatedly, I have so much to do, I have so much to do, I have so much to do, that repeated stress impacts my performance
Very.
continuously. And then someday I reach a point where I say, I have nothing to do. That is burnout.
Mm. Right. You
Right.
know,
So, and for you, you work with sales
mm,
people so much. Do you actually see high performers facing this?
obviously all the time. First of all, what you said is like a reality check, Abhishek. I have personally been in that position. Right now, obviously, I have my own sales consulting company, but before that, I worked for a company for a decade. I started off in an individual contributor role, then I moved to a leadership role. When I moved to the leadership role, because I've been in the company for so long, obviously I knew nooks and corners, yes and no's for every question. Then we used to have new joiners, we used to have current salespeople. I became their comfort zone. I became their scapegoat. Became their punching bag, everything. But I didn't want to let go of that control or that identity that I'm, kind of
Correct.
made for myself. And then obviously being in the leadership role, I had huge expectations from the management team that I had to deliver. So burnout was happening every single day. But let me also tell you, to answer your question, I was one of the top performers in sales, and I continued to have a portion of um, portion of account management clients, or I would say a stake that I was handling as a sales team leader as well. So I had to do team leadership. I had to also cater to some of the top enterprise clients. So I had to sell to them. I had to manage them, etc. Um, and what I was doing is, although I had a very strict calendar that I was following in terms of checkup with my clients, those calls, etc., etc. But if somebody came through and it was a block calendar, only me and me, I was like, okay, it's not a client meeting. It's all right if it's just 10 minutes I give them. And that is how I realized that I was not being efficient. And end of the day, if I had to do ABC, I would just get done A. BC was pending. And that is to irritate me. That is to really irritate the shit out of me. That, I didn't complete this. Then I have to tell myself I'll complete it in my next blocked time. Um, but that is playing in my head. When you're a top performer, you're constantly thinking of what you delivered, and while driving back home, I'm thinking, okay, I didn't do this. This is important for this particular client. Oh, it is real. What you just
Yeah.
pinpoint, Abhishek.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, when we even, I'm sure when you did your webinar and when you talk about sales calendar, I'm sure you keep blocks of breaks in the middle. And those breaks, when we start the day, uh, more than ending the week or ending the day, I think at the start of the day,
Mm-hmm.
a 10-minute or 15-minute time just with oneself is very important. And that is the time when you're not thinking calendars, you're just thinking about yourself,
Yeah.
not work, what I have to do, nothing. It kind of clears out the mind a little bit. Maybe take a walk, 10 minutes walk. And then when you come back and look at your calendar, you look at it with a much more clearer lens.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you put those gaps or breaks, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever breaks you make, those breaks are meant to be taken.
Mm-hmm.
Those breaks are not meant to be answering questions
Mm-hmm.
because you're taking the load off your mind at that time. So what when you actually allow people insight into your life
Mm-hmm.
during those 5-10 minutes break or me time, what you're technically doing is two things. You're not allowing your mind to take off the load. And secondly, that 5 or 10 minutes of discussion never really ends up being 5 or 10 minutes. It becomes longer, which eats into your next blocked time.
Yeah.
And then it's a domino effect. And
Mhm.
at the end of the day, that one 5 minutes or 10 minutes that you thought that, oh, it's okay, it's just 5 or 10 minutes, eventually pushed you back 1 or 2 hours of your work.
And
And that you are now carrying home. That,
yes,
okay, I had to
your
do X amount
weekend.
of work. I did X minus 20%.
Yeah.
And now I am, and you know what? It's very interesting. Then there is so much of conflict within that. Should I now complete the task
Mm.
over the weekend? But the conflict is, well, it's a weekend. I'm supposed to be resting. But then the conflict, then that's the conflict that becomes another, recipe to burnout, right? Because that's not a physical exhaustion. That's like a mental, emotional exhaustion, an emotional exhaustion because you said you've kids, your
Mm.
family.
Mm.
That's the conflict. Okay, just because I did 20% less because of my mistakes, and it's just my mistakes purely, I can't blame it on anybody else. Now I can't spend time with my family. Should I? Or should I finish those 20%? Now that's an emotional conflict. That is directly emotional burnout. You do that 5 times in a month in 5 different weekends,
Mm.
and then suddenly you're not the same performer anymore.
So
That's what burnout does. And this is not stress, this is not anxiety. This is not about going to a psychiatrist and popping an anti anxiety pill. It does not work
mm.
because burnout is a workplace phenomenon. It
Mhm.
is not a clinical problem.
Mhm.
And everybody goes through it for various different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, Abhishek, is such true points. So, coming back to that point where you really nailed it, that you take home that stress of, oh, I've not done enough, or I've not completed my task, and then you are in this two minds, should I do it now, should I not do it now? And actually, you don't even action it immediately. You'll think, it's a Friday evening, you have your family to spend time with, and in your head, you're like, should I just finish off this work before Saturday, Sunday comes? And in your head, you are battling that emotion, and then you're also doing stuff with your family, but you're not completely there because, in your head, you're like, okay, I have these tasks left, and that doesn't make you feel free, like live in the moment freely, nicely. Oh my God, that's such an amazing topic. We could really cover a lot on this topic, and I'm
Actually,
sure.
what you just said is one of the greatest things in psychology.
Ah,
And there are various ways to make it happen, is to live in the moment,
moment.
is to live in the here and now.
Hmm.
And as simple as it sounds, living in the here and now, it's very hard because the human mind is always either regretting the past or worrying about the future, right? I missed my target yesterday. What if I miss tomorrow again?
Yeah.
That's not important. What's important is here and now. Right now, what am I? What am I doing? And this here and now is very, very important. And there are and scholars and psychologists have written books, and a lot of research have been done around the here and now. Because to anybody, they'll say, why is it so difficult? It is difficult because the human mind is wired to worry about the future and regret the past.
Yeah.
That's why there are ways, the 4 by 4 by 4 breath work, or 5 things I see, 4 things I touch, 3 things I can smell. When you do that, instantly your vagus nerve comes back to the present.
Oh my
And
God,
that's where the
what is
conflict
that?
immediately drops.
What
It's
is that?
like, if your mind is spiraling and
Mm-hmm.
thinking, oh, I had to do X target last week, I didn't do, which means now that's my regret of the past. and that means I have to to worry in the worry about this weekend. I can't relax, or it's if I relax, then next week I've going to got to do more work. Now I'm worrying about the future. That's the moment to look around in your room and look at
Okay.
5 things that you can name,
Oh.
4 things that you can touch,
Mm.
3 things that you can smell. If you do that right now in your room, your mind is going to switch right back into the present,
Oh,
and
really?
the
Oh,
spiral will stop.
oh, nice. Never knew about this. Never knew
Your
this.
mind will just come back to the present immediately. You're forcing your mind to come back to the present and stop thinking about the past and the future.
I see. So I'm engaging with what I have in front of me, and I
Exactly.
have to pick it up. Oh, nice. I can use this in my sales trainings as well, Abhishek.
It's such a simple thing to do to stop your mind from, because the mind spirals
Mm-hmm.
out of control,
And
right? It's
now with us having access to so much content, we are consuming content. We
all
are,
the time.
yeah, we are running on huge massive tasks and responsibilities, not like the old days of our grandparents where we had a straightforward day, and live within it. No, but we have so much content, so much, and all of us live apart from our families. We have to connect with our families. There's so much going on in our days. So
Yeah.
okay.
And to actually, we need to be going back to what our grandparents did. If you see, they had a very mundane, boring life.
Yeah.
We don't even have a second of that. So it's like, end of the day, beginning of the day.
Mm,
Can you be boring? The last 15 minutes, 30 minutes when you're winding down to go to sleep, do you have to look at your phone? Because
mm,
we look at the phone or look at the TV and then we fall off sleep. That's not the right way. The way to do it is the last 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you're winding down. It's boring. You don't have a gadget in front of you. You have nothing. You have no thoughts. It's just boring how our grandparents lived.
mm,
Similarly, in the morning, the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes after you wake up, after you freshened up, can
mm,
you just be boring?
mm.
Walk around, meander around the house. If you have a lawn, meander around. If you're living in a nice remote place, meander around in the woods. Can you just be boring for 15-20 minutes
I
and then
thought
get to work?
boring is scary, Abhishek. If I'm bored,
That's the problem.
I feel like if I'm bored, I have my gadget to
That's that
entertain me.
is the problem. That is the problem. Because imagine 5 things I can see, 4 things I can touch, 3 things I can smell. How boring is that?
Yeah, exactly. I'll be like, okay,
But But it's very powerful because it's scientifically proven the vagus nerve, which is the center of all these anxiety and all of that, calms down immediately. The breath
how
work
do you
helps.
spell it? Vagus nerve? How
VAGUS, VAGUS. It's part of the central nervous system.
VAGUS? Okay,
The
interesting.
vagus nerve calms down and your mind comes to the present, right? Because I'll tell you what, when you're coaching, I'll give you an example. Did you
Mm,
see this? When you're coaching, when you're training sales guys, when you're coaching sales guys, have you seen your sales guys spiral to the future? A lot of these guys are thinking, Trisha is teaching me this.
mm,
How will I use it? Can I use it? Will I sell? That's not important.
mm,
Be here,
mm,
be in the now, learn,
mm,
apply later.
mhm.
But what is happening is the moment you've said a few good things, their mind is out of the training room or out of the call and they've gone into the field and now they're thinking, how will I apply? How will I apply? How will I apply?
How
Will I
to
sell? Will I sell? Will I sell?
Ah, yeah. How can I do this with this client? Oh, I already have this pain point with my client.
Exactly.
I will do
Exactly.
that, etc. Oh my God, this is so true. Keeping our time in mind, we have around 2 minutes before we wrap up. Um, Very important question, Abhishek. This is something that I have a lot of leadership connections who will be listening in, or anybody who's listening in. So, when a leader comes to you, you have dealt with so many leaders. When they come to you completely depleted, according to your definition, what's usually the first thing that you notice about how they are spending their time, and what is that one shift that tends to change everything for them? I know we've covered certain points about being present in the moment, having a structure, having boundaries. Love that, Abhishek. Um, Apart from these, what is one thing that you have kind of tweaked in a depleted leader and send them back fresh?
Just one thing. The thing with leaders is
Mm,
a leader
mm,
doesn't happen overnight.
mm,
A leader takes time, right? So they're in a role
mm,
and they're growing, right? In that vertical, or maybe they've diversified, whatever. So they've played multiple roles to get to a, and then at some point of time, they would have got into the leadership group and then slowly grown inside that leadership group. So they're basically going through multiple roles. There is a small difference. I am continuously using the term role, while the leaders, most of the leaders, have fused that role with their identity.
mhm,
Identity is one, roles are many.
mm,
And when they fuse their identity with the role, then they become the role. That is why the depletion happens. When the identity is separated, the I
mm,
is very different from any role that you play in life. Whether you're a leader, you're a mother, you're a wife, you're a coach, these are all roles. They cannot fuse with your identity. A
mm,
leader is depleted because they carry work home, they carry work into their sleep, they carry work when they wake up. Why? Because it's become their identity.
mm,
And when they lose that role,
mm,
they have technically lost a role, but to them, they have lost their identity.
mm,
And this does not just happen with depleted leaders. These happen with leaders who have retired as well. Today I am the CEO. This is my last working day. Tomorrow I am a nobody. It's not true. You are still you. You just don't have that role. So the one thing I make sure over a period of time that I work with them is to be able to disconnect the identity from the role,
mm,
so that whether they are working now or whether they are in between jobs, when they go back to office tomorrow, when they find a job, then they are walking in to play that role
mm,
while keeping the identity separate. As long as the identity is fused with the role, they will continue to feel the burnout and the depletion. And that identity has to be separate. So I ask them a very simple question. How many times have you, how do you introduce yourself?
mm.
For example, even I did this today. You did this today. I am Trisha. I'm a sales coach. I am Abhishek. I have 20 years of experience. Why?
Yes.
Why can't it be? I am Abhishek. I love driving. I love playing with my two tiny Shih Tzus.
Mm,
That's me. That's my identity. But we say, I am Trisha. I'm a sales coach. I have 20 years of experience. I'm Abhishek. I am a leadership guy with 20 years of experience.